Evil Pixel.
Now, if you've been following our channel, you know that we've covered a good amount of beat-em-ups. Growing up, it was one of my favorite genres of games, and some classics such as Streets of Rage, Battletoads, and Final Fight have spawned some very popular characters that are still well known today. In this video, we'll be discussing a game in the newer gen gaming era, PlayStation 2 to be exact. And so in today's video, we'll be discussing the cancelled Final Fight 7 Sons. Now, with the release of the PlayStation 2, expectations were at an all-time high as far as the gameplay and visuals were concerned. Now, beat-em-ups were still very much a thing during this era, however not many beat-em-ups were still being made, and Capcom, being one of the OGs of this game style, decided they wanted a jab at a new Final Fight game. Final Fight, for those who may not know, is a classic style beat-em-up which brought upon popular Capcom characters such as Guy, Hagar, Cody, Poison, Hugo, Abigail, and many more. Now, sometime between 2003 and 2005, Capcom began conceptualizing and developing the title Final Fight 7 Sons. Now, before we go on, some of you may be saying, there was a Final Fight released in PlayStation 2. Yes, there was. However, Final Fight 7 Sons was the game used as a prototype to create Final Fight Streetwise, which was released in 2006. Now, in fact, Streetwise was the second attempt for a PlayStation 2 Final Fight. The camera in Final Fight 7 Sons was given a feel of a 16-bit 2D railcam system known as Cambox. Now, Final Fight 7 Sons also sported cel-shaded graphics with toonish gritty backgrounds, which was popular at the time as well. Now, believe it or not, the reason for this game's cancellation was due to a huge communication error between the developers and the heads in charge, stating that the game, while fun to play, was visually not suited for its core audience. Now, the developers misinterpreted this as them saying that they do not like the game at all, and to continue the project with a theme American gamers would enjoy. Now, it was at this time that the original gameplay mechanic established for 7 Sons was completely wiped from the table, and they began the concept for Final Fight Streetwise. Now, some say that Final Fight 7 Sons was cancelled because of marketing decisions. Now, interestingly enough, Final Fight Streetwise was very different from what the team had originally in mind. The mass urban thug appeal used in Streetwise was too oversaturated in the market, and they simply did not agree with this setting. Now, with the popularity of the Grand Theft Auto series, the team attempted to mimic the game's feel with unsuccessful results. Now, thankfully, there is a playable beta available for this game, which is what you're looking at right now. Now, one planned playable character is showcased in this beta, but unfortunately he's given no name. Now, his use of electrical attacks and overall design made it seem as though part of his design model was used for Dean, who was featured in Final Fight Streetwise. Now, for what it's worth, the game's graphics didn't seem too bad for the time, and from what is displayed, the backgrounds don't seem too shabby. The transitions that were shown in the early prototype seem to have went by very smoothly with very minimal wait loading times. Now, as you can see, the character is shown going in and out of convenience stores with practically no loading times at all. Now, another aspect I thought would be cool for the time was the destruction you were able to cause in the backgrounds. Now, for example, in the grocery store, cans and food will go flying everywhere if you or an enemy were to hit the food stands, or newspaper would go flying everywhere if you were to hit the newspaper dispenser. Now, as you can see in the top left corner of the game, there is a gauge that appeared to be a type of rage meter that once filled up, you can use it to go into a berserk power type mode by simply pressing L2. Now, this mode powers him up, lets him go faster, attack harder, and I'm assuming gives him more life. And it's pretty obvious that this phase doesn't last very long. But I do think it's funny how his tank top magically reappears on himself once this phase is over. Now, I gotta be honest, I've never played Final Fantasy Streetwise, but from what I've heard, it appeared that 7 Sons would have been better than Streetwise. Now, in case you were wondering, Final Fight Streetwise was met with terrible reviews, clunky controls, and horrific graphics. The game was so bad that a good amount of people didn't even know there was a Final Fight game made for the PlayStation 2. Hell, I didn't even know. It wasn't until doing my research for 7 Sons that I found out about Final Fight Streetwise. Now, even though Streetwise did have familiar characters for the franchise such as Cody, it seems as though he was just placed there as a cameo just to tie in the original games with this one. Now Streetwise had every negative aspect that plays terrible games: awful graphics, terrible controls, ridiculous stories, and forgettable characters that you simply did not care about. It's no wonder Streetwise fell into obscurity. But I digress. I'm beginning to make this video too much about Final Fight Streetwise. Now even though at that time beat 'em ups were pretty much dead, there just weren't very many good ones out there. Not until the reinvention of the 8-bit games began getting popular once again in recent times, but that's up for debate. And I guess Seven Sons' effect on the beat 'em up genre is something that we will all have to speculate about, and we will truly never know. And that is what we know about Final Fight 7 Sons. Thank you guys for watching. Check out some of our other videos if you like. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, give us any suggestions for any future videos, and also check out our Patreon if you like. And I'll catch you all next time.